All right, ladies, we are live. Welcome this evening to another episode with Rise with Hope. I'm your host, Aisha Nixon, and we're having another awesome conversation added to the other conversations before. Conversations, ladies, that will inspire you, encourage, empower, and enlighten you. And this evening, another conversation that we're going to unpack entitled Female Friendships Finding Friendships Later in Life. And ladies, I want to welcome you to our two guest speakers this evening. We have Lori Ann Dinnall. Lori Ann, can you just show the ladies who you are, please? Lori Ann, thank you. And we also have Lynn Wade. Lynn? All
Hello,
right.
everyone. Hello.
So, welcome this evening, and we are going to get started. And so, before we even unpack the conversation about female friendships, ladies, those who are joining us, thank you for joining us this evening. This is such an important topic, female friendships, finding friendships later in life. You may find the older you get, maybe the less friendships that you may have. You may find that maybe the meaningful friendships that you had are not as much or any longer. You may find that maybe you're the one always initiating to connect. And so we are going to be unpacking this conversation with various questions and who best than Lynn and Lorianne to be able to share it with us from their heart and from maybe from experiences that they may have had. So let's get started. So, Lynn, can you share with us three things about yourself before we even dive into the conversation? Who is?
Wow. Wow. That's like asking you to have a whole book and just find three sentences, but I'll work. I'll work on it. Well, everybody knows I am a Java junkie. So I will meet anybody at a coffee shop, my favorite place in the whole wide world. I just love strangers. I mean, I know we have a stranger danger message, but I'm old enough to detect the danger. So I stick around with the strangers and I love the Lord. I absolutely
Awesome.
do. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing about who you are, Lynn. And Lorianne, can you tell us three things about who Lorianne is?
Sure. I love love. And so I'm really intentional about relationship building, and I leave a lot of capacity and space in my life to do so. I'm also an avid reader, and I'm committed to lifelong learning. And lastly, as you can see, I kind of have a bit of a love affair with stilettos.
Well, thank you. And ladies, now you've gotten a taste, a little bit of who Lynn and who Lorianne, who they both are. And so let's dive into this conversation, ladies. And the first question that I would love for both of you to answer is, why are female friendships important? So, Lorianne, if you can start us off with your thoughts, and then Lynn, we'd love to have you add your thoughts to that.
I think female friendships are important because throughout the life cycle, we're just not designed to do life on our own. And so I think there's something to be said about a woman's perspective, the way in which God has designed and hardwired us. And I think, especially in this day and age where there's so many myths going on about whether or not women get along with each other, or we've grown up with women who say, I don't do life with other women. Women are messy. And I think that the testament of female friendships is debunking that and saying, no, I am my sister's keeper. I am my sister. And so this whole idea of in the relationships with other women is where we really come to discover even things about ourselves and what we have to give and what we have to offer. And so I think that everybody desires friendship and relationship in their lives, and having at least one good woman in your life is only going to serve to be a benefit.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Mhm.
thoughts, Lorianne.
Yeah,
Lynn?
I mean, that's why we're friends, right? We share a lot of things alike, but I just think it's just a really important part of your life journey. I have been intentional about bringing women into the camp because we need each other. There's so many things that society have sort of like written about us that aren't true. And I think it's about time. I'm reading The Kingdom Woman by Dr. Tony Evans, and he was talking about we're image bearers, right? That God has made us for advancing his kingdom. And how can you advance a kingdom if you're divided? Right. So it's really, really important that in the kingdom of women, that we really work on the business of relationships, right? Because we are image bearers here to advance that. So it's vital in the advancement of the kingdom, but mostly it's just good. Like girlfriends are good. Like, oh, they're so good for your soul. Oh God, they're so good. So good.
Awesome. So, ladies, as you've heard various points, I'm just going to touch on a few. One, us being image bearers of God's kingdom, being able to advance it, we need to work together to do that. Also, we need each other as part of our life journey. Why go through it alone? Being able to discover things about ourselves when we are in friendship with others, hearing, I am my sister's keeper, and not designed to do life on our own. And so, those are a variety of reasons why female friendships are important. And so, next question that I have here then is, so then why do some friendships last and others don't? Lynn, what are your thoughts on that?
I think sometimes, and Lorianne and I talk about this all the time. We're big on reciprocity, right?
Mhm.
That's our what do we call it? Our carriage, our badge of honor. And when I say that, I know sometimes people think it's like 50-50. There are seasons in your life where you have to literally carry someone, and then there are seasons in their life that you will carry them. And if what happens sometimes is if we've been carrying for a long time and we're not talking about unloading some of the heaviness, then it becomes burdensome.
Yeah.
And then there's this thing where, you know what, you don't seem to notice how much I'm carrying. And when I try to talk to you, you're getting defensive. So maybe it's better that we go our separate ways, and so sometimes I think relationships don't last because we're just not honest, the kind of thing. We're not honest with how we're showing up as friends. We're not honest with, how we love, how we see things. Sometimes Laura and I will be in conversations and we would be talking about something, but we would see things from two different perspectives, and we're able to share it and go, wow, I never really thought about it that way. And oh, whoa, that's not what I was thinking. But then able to kind of like walk away and go, I wonder if I was to look at it from this perspective, how it would change my whole perspective on the scenario, the situation, or even other relationships that I'm in, right? So I think a lot of it happens because we're not really being honest, and that thing about reciprocity, it's vital. So asking for things sometimes and saying no to things sometimes is also part of healthy relationships, right, Laura?
Absolutely. And just to add to what Lynn is saying there, I think it comes down part and parcel of that reciprocity is effort.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's like, are we both putting into this? Have we made a determination that relationships, this friendship in particular, is important? And then are we both showing up to bring whatever it is that we bring to the table to be a blessing to the other person? And a lot of times that effort, it's not matched. So then it is going to fizzle. And it doesn't have to actually just be a fallout with somebody. It could just be a growing apart because the levels of effort and the level of intention that is put on the relationship is different. And it doesn't make our sister a bad person. It just means we maybe want different things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very good insight from the both of you,
Yeah.
because it's so important we need to reevaluate, right? Or to even reflect on the friendships that we currently have to see where it's at, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
ladies listening, those are some great points about why friendships last and why some don't. And as was mentioned, reciprocity, the amount of effort that's put in, um, being honest, and if you are good friends with the other person, that should be able to be received, and received with a good heart. And realizing that what my friend is saying, she's being honest, and not to hurt me, but to be able to make our friendship stronger and refine it. Being able to ask for things, being able to say no. um, and if you're carrying the other person for a lengthy period of time, then, as Lynn was saying, it can become burdensome. However, as she was stating, there are some times where you may need to carry your friend or vice versa. Um, so you just need to look at that to see what does that look like and how long is that for, and are you both showing up? And so these are very good questions and reflection questions to think, where are you at with your friendships, um, and see what's going on. And like Lorianne was saying, it might not even be that you got in a disagreement to the point where you have to separate, but sometimes we can grow apart, and that's okay. Okay. And so in all of that, I think another question that can come out of that is, if you are a maintainer in a friendship, and for those who don't know, ladies, maintainer is someone who's always initiating, okay, let's get together here, or okay, I'm going to call, or I'm going to connect with that friend of mine. How do you know when it's time to move on? And I guess maybe some of the points were mentioned just in our former question, but if there's any additional responses or thoughts, feel free, Lynn or Lorianne, to add to that.
I think sometimes you have to, in those seasons, sometimes people also just need space, right?
Yeah.
There are things that sometimes people are going through and they just need a little space to just kind of like catch their breath. I think at the end of the day, when we're holding space for one another, it can also mean space away from the person, just giving them the freedom to just say, you know what, go sort that stuff out. Whenever you need somebody to fall back on, fall back, to kind of thing. So sometimes I think we're afraid of that. And, for me, I have trust issues. So, when my relationship with Lorianne was getting deeper and delicious and everything like that, there was that trust sort of like issue started to sort of like, show its head. And I was like, how do I deal with that? And initially, my initial response to that was to pull away, because I thought, I'm getting afraid, I'm feeling triggered, and I don't want to make that a vulnerable conversation. And, Laura was kind of sensing it. And, she was just, and we would say things like, I don't have capacity right now, which means that I need a little time away to catch my breath. But I was saying it for quite a while. And then finally, we agreed to sit down and talk about this capacity issue. And really what it was is I was having some trust issue. And I needed to ask her if it's okay that I be vulnerable and say, I have trust issues. And sometimes when these things happen, it triggers this for me. And are you able to be my friend, knowing that that is part of my weakness, for lack of a better word, And for me, when she said, well, yeah, I mean, it was a switch for me, and it meant a different kind of relationship, because this was not just a relationship based on happy, Lynn. It was in a relationship that said there are things about Lynn that is, that is fragile. There are things about Lynn that, that is tender, and I'm going to be sensitive to that. But I just love all of who she is, and not just the part that makes me feel good. Right, Laura?
So true. And it's really apt that you brought up even our very personal experience that we've gone through, because it's made us stronger. And so this idea here of, as you're asking us here, Aisha, about like maintaining a relationship and taking initiative, that's necessary even in like hard seasons. But hopefully with the strength of the relationship, we're able to cultivate language, like how Lynn just gave the example there of like, hey girl, are you okay? And you're checking in on the person and they're saying, you know what, I don't have capacity today. And you would say, okay. And then for the person that's on the end who's doing the maintaining, you might be prone to want to take things personally or to oversensitize it, but you have to kind of just say, listen to the request that's actually being made here. My friend is going through something that they're not able to speak to at this time. How do I hold space for them, not taking it on personally, and then be available for whenever they're ready to talk about it, when they're ready to circle back? And so we had to walk through that, and it was unknown, uncharted territory for us, but we're all the better for having gone through it. And part of holding space is also, can you prepare yourself for whatever it is they may need to share and get off of their chest when the time comes to come back together again? And it really ended up being a blessing for us that gave her the space to be able to sort out whatever was happening in her head and her heart at that time. Then she could speak honestly, authentically, raw and vulnerably. And then I was in a place where I was like, this isn't about me, but I'm here to demonstrate to you that I am the real deal. And this friendship here is meaningful enough to me that I can sit with you in the messy middle.
So good. The messy middle.
This is great. This is great, ladies, and both of you just giving us a little bit of like a view into your personal, friendship, and allowing us to see that, because with those who may be listening, they may be going through that too, and maybe hesitant to want to take that friendship a step further, because it's like, as Lynn was saying, okay, I'm not sure if my friend can handle what I have to share. I'm not sure if I'm honest and authentic, will she accept me? You know what I mean? Can I be vulnerable and not be judged? Right? Is this a safe place, that I can call a non-judgment zone, right? Um, and then, as Lorianne was saying, cultivate language. I think that's so important, being able to find the right words to say, that when you say it, the other person understands, your friend understands what you are saying, and you don't take it personal, you don't oversensitize. And it can be easy to, if you're always
It's tempting.
sensitive, right? And it's like, why did she say that, right? Or whatever the case might be. And you may, but it's important to be open, and being prepared for what the your friend may say once they are ready to share with you, and believe that you can receive that and take it, and be able to help them through that journey if that's what they need, whether it's a listening ear or just walking with them through the journey. It's not always providing an answer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And don't take too long to do that as well, because the person on the maintenance side is really waiting. I
Yeah.
mean, when somebody loves you, they're waiting to help. That's what they're in waiting. In the old times they have ladies in waiting to help the queen or the princess to get ready. They're waiting. So be sensitive to that as well. You know what I mean? So, let's not do this 6 months, a year, and then all of a sudden, hi girl, how you doing? So now I'm ready.
Yeah.
You don't have to come with a full chapter, but give enough where you can say, this is not about you. This is really about a heaviness that I'm carrying, and I just didn't even have language for it. So give me space and time as I unfold with it, but I want you to know this is not about you, and it's not about us. You're safe with me and I am safe with you. I just need to figure out how safe I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's important, Lynn, because sometimes we don't say anything, so much time passes, and then you think maybe the friendship's finished, right?
Mhm,
Or you're just wondering what's going on. But communication
mhm,
is important, right?
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
so, thank you for sharing that point. So, you may find that, as we grow older, do you think that what we need in a friend changes, or do you think it remains the same? So, if we were to think back to when we were maybe teenagers, or in our early 20s to now, what do you think? What do you think about that in terms of what we need?
I'm going to go. I love this question. I do think that our friendship needs change through the
mhm,
decades, through the different life stages. So some of us, us on this call here, we're all wives, and Lynn is a mom. And so different seasons bring different things. But also in terms of, I think as we come into the fullness of who we are as women, then your the things you're desiring, the things that you need in your life, the conversation that you're having, the way in which your mind is elevating, then it's going to put a different demand on your relationships. Lynn and I were having this very same conversation earlier this week, and this idea of like, maybe in your teens and 20s you were just socializing with your friends, just your key friends. You're out partying, having a good time, or let's go to the restaurant, let's go to the movies. You might be gossiping about people, if we're really honest, and just really fluffy conversation. And then as you get older, you're like, I want to talk about dreams and
Yeah.
vision and purpose and destiny and serving others and legacy. And I want more common ground on things that like have more of an eternal weight. And like those key friends from your 20s might not be those same people that are evolving at the same space as you. And so it might mean, Lynn and I are big on this idea of like accepting people for who they are, but there may be a shift in that dynamic. So maybe that's your homegirl that you grab coffee with, and you guys guys do a little catch up periodically, but she may not become like my mainstay that I am talking about, like the deep things of God. Like at this age and stage, Lynn and I are big on like, I want a friend that I can pray with. I want a friend that I can talk about like what's going on in my marriage. I want friends that like, have big dreams for their lives and they're okay sharing it with you because we've both decided that we're safe people to do that with. So I do think, Aisha, that things change over time as you change, and therefore your needs are going to change.
Great points. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lorianne.
Yeah, I totally second that. And I also think it also, there's a level of esteem that comes later on in life that is different from when you're in your 20s and your 30s. Laura and I have this thing where she'll be reading a book and she'll leave me a voice note of a chapter in the book, and then I'll be like, oh my God. And then I'll be like, what book is that? And then I'm like, I order the book, and what page number is that? And it's like iron sharpens iron. And it's instrumental in especially faith-based relationships. It's instrumental in sharpening even insight and knowledge and the things of God. And it's a rich experience, right? And I think, when I was in my 20s, listen, license, access to a little bit of money, I think you were pulling in anywhere from $12 to $15,000 a year. So it was really about just, how we can scramble up and survive the club, or if you were a church girl, offering and dinner on Sundays after church service, that kind of thing. But now it's much more substance, and you also want somebody at this stage in the game to hold you accountable. You're not like, you're much more interested in growth and development, personal as well as spiritual and even environmental. So you want somebody that will check in and say, hey girl, I needs to talk to you because, I just don't like how you unfolding. And then you can say, well, I'm unfolding this way because of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then bring you back in the fold, or remind you of the things that you were dreaming about. Because sometimes life can be so burdensome that we get lost in things. And then that friendship, that adult friendship has a way of going, girl, remember when you said you wanted to do this? And you're like, I actually forgot. I forgot. The kind of thing. So it's a different kind of relationship dynamics.
This is great. This is great. And so, ladies, as you're hearing that, and I agree too, that as we grow older, yeah, our needs do change as we change. We do not stay the same. And the various points that were brought up, I just want to go over them because they're so important that the conversations will change, and what we're talking about changes. For example, we may be talking about dreams, about visions, legacy, serving others, realizing that as friends we need to sharpen one another. If we're in the business of trying to help one another, trying to make each other better, then we have to go a bit deeper in our conversations and what we're talking about and what we're pouring into one another. It's about growth and development. And so in that, being able to be honest and sharing whatever we may need to, if we see our friend going in a direction, or maybe just at a pause, being able to say, hey, what's going on, and being able to um, pray with your friend, being able to speak life into your friend's spirit because of the season that she may be in. Realizing, as Lynn and Lorianne were saying, it's a rich experience being able to have this type of friendship. And just realizing it's beyond the acquaintance, but it's to the point where you it's a deep friendship that you can have, one that is needed, one that it's like community. Accountability is important. And so, ladies, just as let's all appreciate those friends in our sphere of influence, and those who we can say, yeah, I am my sister's keeper, and vice versa. And I'm so grateful for those friends. It may not even be quantity, but quality
Yeah.
is important. um and so, do you think it's harder, ladies, for adults to form meaningful relationships?
I think we're the wrong crew, but I'm going to let Angela answer that question first.
No, I don't think it's harder. I think we get in our own way. It's our little hiccups and hangups and our fears that we have where we tell ourselves it's going to be harder. And we reminisce about, being little kids on the playground and how it was so easy. I think what the experience and the passage of time does to us is make us fearful of rejection, right? And so a lot of times we're hesitant to put ourselves out there and really ask somebody with your grown 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old self to ask somebody, hey, do you want to grab lunch? Hey, do you want to exchange numbers? Hey, do you want to come to my house? We're afraid, and there's just no need to be. I think Lynn and I have found, because we're extroverts, we'll be talking to random people on the street, exchanging numbers and emails. That's how we do. We're a little off, but we like it. Yeah. But what I'm saying with all of that is that there's an openness, there's a willingness. Mm-hmm. And I think if one really desires to have a friend, we must show ourselves friendly, right? That's Bible. And so I think it really comes with put yourself out on a limb, extend yourself. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Even in our personal journey, we're women of a certain age, 40 plus, and our friendship really, we were acquaintances long ago, and didn't have regular interaction with one another. And then we made a decision. We gravitated towards each other and just was like, hey, you want to do dinner one night, and exchange numbers. And then the real kickoff for us was Lynn just called me one day after church on a Sunday afternoon and said, would you like to go for a walk? And I said, yes. And we have been Batia and benches, they would say, since then. And it started with, because I don't take lightly, especially in adulthood, when somebody extends themselves, because you know what it is. We all know what it is, where we're like, this person is going out of their way to connect. And I say, if you desire to have friendships, be open to the possibility of new people coming into your world and potentially having one of the richest connections you've ever had in your life that could trump people you've known for 20 and 30 years. Be open to, you could be meeting your best friend at your midway point in life, but you have to have that willingness and engage the possibility that someone beautiful God can be bringing into your life in a later season.
Mm-hmm. And what a gift. And what a gift it is. I'm a note passer. Lorianne, I pass notes. I've passed notes in church asking for friendship. I have passed notes of encouragement to people at Starbucks, and they end up becoming my friends. I'm not afraid. And I think part of that is because, I know what it feels like to not have a friend. And sometimes the feeling comes from the fear of friendships. So when I decided to challenge myself and say, and I say to the kids all the time, if you want a friend, you have to be friendly, the kind of thing. And I'm not, I know for people who are struggling, they're like, there's so many precautions, and so many things you have to listen. And I'm saying this in loosely, but it's definitely something that as you begin to know people, you attract your tribe. Right? Your vibe attracts your tribe. And if you are showing up grumpy and frumpy, chances are you'll attract a few grumpies and frumpies. But if you want to go somewhere and you see somebody already at that position, then you want to gravitate towards that person and secretly stalk them and take notes on how they do things. Do you know what I mean? And it's also developing certain habits that you were not so good at. You know what I mean? But I think we rob ourselves the gift of each other when we put all these rules that have proven to be wrong, and they've only held us hostage in our lives. Do you know what I mean? And perfect love cast out fear. So allow the perfect love of God to cast out the fear of people, and God will lead you to the right people. Even if you don't trust yourself, I know it may sound like a silly thing, but when you go before the Lord and you pray and you say, Lord, I'm really looking for a friend like one of the ones those girls are talking about. Can you send somebody my way, and be open to it? And when it comes, water it, toil the ground, sit in a space and allow it to blossom. And you would be there is such a gratitude as you see the strength of the relationship, but don't be afraid. There are billions of people in the world. So there's 500 in the circumference of where you are that don't like you. There are billions billions of people in the world. Find two and you're good. Do you know?
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good, very rich thoughts and your perspective, Lynn and Lorianne, on being able to form meaningful relationships as adults, and that yes, it can work, and it requires us to be open. It requires us to be willing. It requires us to take initiative and to go up to a person, or as Lynn said, to pass a note to a person, to say something, whether it's to
Mhm.
go for a coffee, go for a walk, etc., and just be able to see where that will go. And I think a lot of times as women, we may be hesitant because you're already wondering about the end, but it's like just take that first step, right, to see where it can go, and to not be afraid. Because fear can paralyze us, and fear can cause us to not get into a relationship that may take us to the next level. Like, we just have no idea, right? So it's important to not be afraid. And as Lynn or Lorianne was saying that, I think it was Lorianne was saying, you can even meet your best friend midway, at the stage that you're at. And I think that's so encouraging, because some ladies who are whatever age they may be at may be thinking, I need a best friend, I need a good friend at this time, and maybe they've given up. But as both of you are extremely encouraging, saying no, it can happen now, and it's a matter of us just being open. And once we get that friendship, as Lynn was saying, we need to, just like a plant, water it. We need to till the ground. We need to allow it time to grow, right? It's not going to happen right away. Relationships take time. And
Absolutely.
so this has been an awesome conversation, Lynn and Lorianne. Do any of you have any encouraging message that you just want to leave the ladies with in regards to what we've been sharing this evening?
Something just dropped for me right now as I was hearing you ladies talk. And I'm also looking at the live chat and seeing the engagement with the ladies. And I want to encourage anybody listening today, be prayerful
Mhm.
about your friendship journey. So
Mhm.
whether you're examining, as Aisha was saying a moment ago, examining your current roster of friends and the different dynamics that you share and the interests. And let's say you have some concerns about things. You feel like you're growing apart with people. Maybe you've had a falling out with somebody and you haven't really quite recovered. Maybe you're thinking, I got to clear the deck and start over. Or as Lynn was saying, trust issues are rearing their head and you're like, I don't know about that chick anymore. I don't know if I rock with her. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Honestly, I think that he cares about the finite details of our lives. And then even for those who are out there where you're desirous of friendship, you're desirous of new people in your life. Maybe you've moved across the city and your old village of people, the relationships have become fragmented because of now the physical distance. Maybe things have changed. Like we said, you've grown, you've evolved, you're learning and you're developing and your interests have shifted. And now you're feeling like I'm out of touch and I'm kind of feeling like an outsider in the crew that I used to roll with. Pray and ask the Lord to send you people. Ask the Lord, even if it's you desiring just one person. I think the master of the universe, he cares so much about us that he hears us when we speak to him. And so pray about, God, even the work that we need to do in our own lives so that we can be a good friend. We can be positioned to have the right heart set and mindset and the capacity that is required. If we're going to pray for a friend to come, as Lynn was saying, and we got to be able to water it and nurture that relationship, we got to make sure that we have space and that we've made room, not only for that friendship, but for God to do what he wants to do in the friendship lives that we have going on. And so I really wanted to just encourage you all, bring God into the equation. It's not frivolous to talk to him about, God, I want friends. The Bible speaks so much about friendship. And so take those concerns to the Lord and watch him work. He cares.
Yeah. And Lord, just to tie into it and wrap up for the ladies that are listening, I was thinking of the story of Ruth and Naomi and
Mhm.
the difficulty of their relationship in the beginning. Each one of these ladies had lost their husbands, and one was in a land that she belonged in, and the other one was in a foreign land. And they had to journey from a place of hardship into a place of unpredictability. And in the season of journeying, there was this, I like to use the word iron sharpens iron. There was this, your God is my God, your people are my people. And then when she got to this place, there was, how are we going to be looked after? And Naomi was like, Ruth, I got you. And Ruth, and they're in the fields, and they're picking the weeds, and they're doing this thing together. And I think it's a perfect replica sometimes of how we can just kind of say, you know what, we don't have it all together. My life is not, as well as my IG posts. Things are really hard. The shoes that I showed, I had to take them back because, situations are kind of rough. But can you just walk with me, and so that I can get from a place that I don't belong to a place that I belong, and that you would be the one that's holding my hand. I mean, that is brave and loving and kind. And what I will say finally is, you never forget a person like that. And it's easy. There is a gift of holding another woman's hand and walking. It is, oh, it's the most loving gesture that we can have. And I think when we begin to embrace that and allow that to be a part of our female friendships, we will actually start teaching other women about how we do this thing called women friendship better, when we can just enjoy the sweet embrace of each other. So I would just encourage you to find that Naomi or that Ruth and hold their hand, and so journey together and get to that place where you would sit down in sweet fellowship, and you would look back, and you would say, the Lord has been good. The Lord has been good.
What a great way, ladies, Lynn and Lorianne, to just bring it to a close after we unfolded it, after we, is like a flower, just, the petals opening up and blossoming with this conversation that is so important: female friendships, finding friendships later in life. It was unpacked tonight, ladies. And so I hope, and I do believe, that you're more enlightened, that you are empowered, that you're inspired, and you are encouraged. And have those conversations that you may need to have. Reflect on the different points that Lynn and Lorianne shared this evening. Look for new friendships if that's what you're requesting. Pray to God as He cares for us every detail of our lives, and be able to journey with that friend to the place where it needs to be journeyed to, and to be able to just help one another through the hard times, right? Friendship, as both of you were saying, it's not just about happy, but
Yeah.
it's through the valleys and up the mountaintop,
Yeah.
right? So that you can celebrate with one another, and when things are not easy, you can hold one another. And so thank you, ladies, for being part of this
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you for being part of our audience. We so
Thank you.
appreciate that. And so we bring it to an end. And I just want you to know, ladies, this is Rise with Hope not every Thursday, but on Thursdays at 8 p.m. And so our next conversation will be on March 24th about bringing hope to women. And so join us again, March 24th. And ladies, if you haven't subscribed to Rise with Hope, please do so. Thanks for joining. Until